Do you remember a game? I think it was on a Monday night again. A big cheer went up during the game, and I heard from Sean, a couple guys. Nobody knew what was happening. That was the day that we beat the Red Sox in game, won the championship that day. Do you remember that day at all?
Everybody was happy when it came over the loudspeaker. And I don't know if it was, somebody was listening to a transistor radio or whatever. When that roar took place, I mean, it just gave us kind of an incentive to, because we're feeling good knowing that a New York team was, showing their stuff in the playoffs.
Jay Harvard's with a special edition of Amazing Conversations with the great Harry Carson. What better person to talk to is celebrating 100 years of Giants football this year. Harry, Hall of Famer, 10 years of captain with the Giants, nine Pro Bowls, 8 All-Pros, Hall of Famer in 2004, and the mainstays of the champion 21 Super Bowl champions. Harry, pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm old enough. I think I saw all of your games in person, either on TV or in person, 76 to 88. And 86 was the 30th year anniversary of the Giants' last championship. I was actually at that game in Yankee Stadium when we beat the Bears 47-7. So that shows how old I am. I've been a season ticket holder since 1958. So a lot of good Giants football. Will you get drafted out of South Carolina State in 76? Have you ever been to New York at all before?
I'd been to New York, but my mother my my mother left my family um, when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And coming from the South, she left the South for better opportunities in the North. And she lived in Newark. And so I did during my, God, I think I must have been like 10 years old when I first came to Newark, New Jersey, and I wound up in New York a couple of times during that summer when I came up. That was also that was my first visit to the New York area, and I was really astounded by all of the buildings that were so high. In my hometown of Florence, South Carolina, we probably had one building which was about 5 stories tall. And so to see all of these tall buildings, the Prudential building in Newark, and we could look across the river and see the Empire State Building. It was a new experience for
Different, huh?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Our
definitely.
Mookie Wilson's from South Carolina too, and one of our great players. Your first 5 years here with the Giants weren't really easy. Didn't have a winning season, and then Ray Perkins came, won in 81, and then did you think Parcells, when he came first year, was 312-1 in 83? Did you think he was going to turn into Bill Parcells, or what was the first? Do you remember what going through 312-1 was like?
Well, I remember Perkins leaving, going back to Alabama, and Parcells took over, and it was a torturous season. I think that was in 83 when um, Bill took over and we went 3-12-1. And the thing that caught my attention was Bill knew that if George Young was giving him another shot, because I mean he could have been fired right on the spot for a three
Right.
12 and 1 record. Parcells took things into his own hands, and he began to coach the way that he wanted things done, which meant change your personnel. So he got rid of certain players, and especially on defense. Um, we lost Brad Van Pelt, Brian Kelly, um, myself, Lawrence. We gained Gary Reasons and Carl Banks, and we were a much better defense with guys who weren't afraid to tackle and were very physical. And so Bill Belichick was our linebacker coach and defensive coordinator. And he had a tough job as well, getting us to do the right thing because Belichick had been, I don't mean to get off track, but Belichick had been a lacrosse player. He never played football. And so for us as football players, it took us a little while to gain the trust of Belichick because, there were times we didn't know if he knew what he was talking about because he did not have that football experience like most of the other coaches had. And he proved that he was up for the task.
Did you think Belichick would become regarded as the greatest coach of all time in some quarters when you first met him?
Quite frankly, I didn't even think about that. I was just trying to survive the years that I was there. Bill was doing a good job, and he made me a better player at that time. The things that he wanted me to do, and he trusted me to be able to do certain things that, if he wanted me to run through a brick wall, I probably would have done it. But Parcels was my coach before he became head coach. And then Belichick took over, and I got to learn what Belichick was all about. When we went to the Super Bowl, I was happy, and a lot of that was about Bill Belichick, improvising, allowing us to improvise our play on the field. And as long as we made the right play and we got after people, there were no qualms about doing things the wrong way. He trusted us he trusted in us to do the right thing.
So
And we
in
came through.
85, you go 10-6. And I was actually at the game in Chicago when my friend Sean Lindetta whiffed on a punt in freezing weather. And I think we lost 21-0 or something like that. I
That's
was
true.
a diehard in those days. I still am. Did
Yeah.
you anticipate what was going to happen in 86, going 14-2, winning the last 12 games? Coming today, did you think it would be that kind of a year? The Super Bowl year?
when we lost to the Bears in Soldier Field, freezing. I mean, it was cold.
It was cold.
But when we lost, we were in the locker room, and it was at that point, coming off that loss, that I knew we were going to go to the next Super Bowl. I had every bit of confidence that we were going to go, having just gotten through with that game, because in essence, we beat ourselves. We made two mental mistakes on defense, the whiff punt,
Right.
and the thing that we learned from that is if you're going to be in the playoffs, make certain that everybody comes through your house to get to the big dance.
And then you did that. So I start losing to Cowboys 31-28 in the opener, and then a 5-point loss to the Seahawks. They run off 12 straight games. In the playoffs, 49-3 over the 49ers, 17-0 over the Redskins, and behind Denver 10-9 in halftime the Super Bowl, then run off like 26 straight points. In the Super Bowl. I mean, it was safety by George Martin, made 10-9. And, well, talk about what was Phil Simms like in that game. 22 for 25, 268, 3 touchdowns.
We weren't paying attention.
Weren't paying attention?
No, we weren't paying attention to Phil and the offense. Defensively, we had some struggles first half of the game. And we wanted to make certain that we didn't give anything away or throw anything away. From a defensive perspective, we had absolutely no idea what was going on the other side of the ball. All the fans, the media may have been focused on that, but not us down on the field. Until it was brought to our attention.
I think your nickname was a Big Blue Wrecking Crew that year
Yeah.
in '86. For me, the linebackers were the foundation. It was yourself, Carl, LT, Reasons. What was it like playing with LT? Came in '81, the first draft pick. What was the evolution of a superstar?
When Lawrence was drafted, we really didn't want him to come because we felt like, myself, Brad Van Pelt, and Brian Kelly, and the other guys on defense, we felt like we needed more help on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to defensively. And I didn't know anything about Lawrence Taylor. I had never even heard the name Lawrence Taylor until it was kind of leaked that that's who the Giants were looking to draft with the second pick in that draft. And when we went to training camp, I remember being in practice, first day of practice, and we were running drills and one-on-one stuff, running linebackers rushing against running backs and so forth. And I remember sitting on my helmet and thinking to myself, okay, this guy, number 2 draft pick, let me see what he's all about. And when I saw him off the ball, rushing the quarterback and beating up over the, uh, running back or offensive lineman, I thought to myself, damn, this guy's good. This guy is really good. And so when I saw him, I knew he was the real deal because I'd never really seen another player uh, be as athletic on the field as he was. And from that point on, he just got better and better and better.
Yeah.
And
I wrote 2 quick Parcels stories. I've read it in. He always wanted you next to him during the national anthem, and in the Super Bowl, the Giants had 3 captains: Phil Simms, George Martin, yourself, and Bill sent you out alone for the coin toss. That would be a pretty big thrill for you, huh?
it was scary. It was scary because we worked so hard to get to the Super Bowl, and then one of the things that you think about when you're being introduced, when they call your name, you do not want to trip and fall and let the whole world, because you couldn't feel the lower part of your body. And so we're getting ready to start the game, and the official was there waiting for the captains. I had no idea that I was going to be going out by myself. And so as the other team, Denver captain, started walking, the official, I'll never forget, Burl Toller. He said, "Okay, sir, we're ready to go." And I said, "But Joe, but what about George? What about Phil?" And he said, "Let's go." And Parcels said, "Go." And we started walking out on the field midfield, and I saw like 5 guys coming toward me. I'm like, holy crap. It felt like being in a Western and watching, kind of like the OK Corral, and you're about to embark upon a gunfight. And as I'm walking out there, my heart was racing because here I am in the biggest game of my life. Everybody, even as a player or as a kid, you dream of being in the Super Bowl. And I was there. And so I was soaking it all in. But the other thing that I recognized, that it was a tremendous honor to walk out as a solo captain and represent the Giant organization and represent all Giant fans.
Yeah, yeah. Harry's, I'm sure as part of the celebration, they have a retro uniform against the Vikings opening day, patches, top 100 players, and for the Giants fans to pick the best plays from the 100 years. What you remember my 3 best favorite plays? 82 Thanksgiving Day against the Lions. I think the Lions were driving, and LT intercepts a pass, 97 yards for a touchdown, seals a win.
That was memorable. that was memorable. It was exciting. It was exciting to play on Thanksgiving Day. And so Lawrence with that play, um, again, it showed me that this guy was really good. He intercepted the ball and he just took off. And the one thing that he probably should not have done was slide in the end zone because he scraped off a lot of his top skin, um, sliding in the end zone. So it just goes to show that Lawrence was a very special player, gifted. Uh, he had great instincts, great speed, and anybody, especially a Giant fan, if you saw that game, that will always stick out in your mind
Yeah.
as a memorable
I got
play.
two more from '86. The Giants are trailing the 49ers 17-0. Bavaro catches a pass over the middle. It shakes the whole 49er team. Seems like goes about 40 yards. They were down 17-0, wind up winning the game. I think it was Monday Night Football, if I remember correctly.
It was one of these situations where, as a defense, we're watching from the sideline, and to see him catch, I mean, it might have been like a 20-yard pass or whatever. It wasn't like a bomb or anything like that, but he was running with a purpose, and he was just shaking people off of him as he was moving down the field. And it was one of those things that got the defense all fired up, to see a guy like that running with the ball, and the other team's defense was unable to get him down on the ground. So um, that's one of those things that fires you up, and it's one of those plays that you'll always remember.
One last one from '86. Trailing the Vikings late in the game. Giants are 4th and 17. Phil completes a 17-yard pass to Bobby Johnson, and then Allegra kicks a 33-yard field goal, win 22-20. Some people think that was a game that really set in motion the Giants championship season, coming back from the dead that day.
For me, I mean, that was a big play, but to me, it was that game in Chicago, because after that game, there was absolutely no way that we were going to lose the following season. And I think everybody felt it the same way. Deep down inside, they were hurting. And when we came back the following season, it was an altogether different team. And I don't know if that play by Bobby Johnson and Phil had occurred the previous season, we wouldn't necessarily be talking about it. I think everybody developed more discipline, um, and we just relied on each other to make the play. And we didn't really care who got credit. We just wanted everybody to do what they were out there to do. And I just knew that we were going to win. And so we lost that game to Dallas, and we almost, we were looking at the San Diego Chargers the next week, and that's when we got on a roll. And the pass to Bobby Johnson was, it was a highlight, and it's another one of those plays that everybody who's a Giant fan will remember it.
Me
But
too.
as a Giant player, I have to always go back and say, losing to the Chicago Bears was the key game for us. It gave us the incentive to work out during the off season, come back to training camp in shape and ready to play with a different mindset. We checked our egos at the door, and that really is the thing that resonates in my mind. We checked our egos at the door, and everybody, even the receptionist at Giant Stadium, everybody was in a playoff mode. Everybody was, they were committed. to winning. And I played a lot of football, Jay, but I never played with an organization or a team like that team when everybody checked their egos at the door and they don't care who got the credit.
In the early years in the 80s, when Phil started, he got hurt a lot. I remember the chance we want Broner in the early 80s. Any parallels with the cut, not the struggles, but the what Daniel Jones is going through now? It doesn't come right away. I mean, Phil wasn't a star right away. He hurt his thumb. They booed him off the field. And Parcels gave Bruner the job at one point. Any parallels now with the Daniel Jones situation going forward?
I really can't comment on that because I really don't, and I'm honest, I don't really watch a whole lot of Giant football now. I want to know what the score is at the end of the game, but I don't necessarily sit and watch the play of the quarterback or the team. I mean, that was something that I did way back when. If I watch a game, that's fine. If not, I have absolutely no reason. I hate to say this. I have absolutely no reason to go to a game unless I'm there for a reason.
Sure.
And no, because when I go, I get invested in the game, and when they lose, then I get upset, and I'm like, wait a second, why am I upset? With there's nothing that I can do. I understand how the fans feel, but I try not to watch because if they don't play well, or if they lose a game, you hear people say, "Oh, same old Giants, same old Giants," and in a way, they are the same old Giants. That what they do kind of resonates and take people back to the 70s and early 80s or whatever. So I can't really give you any kind of
No, I hear you.
commentary on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I have two last more questions. Were you playing the Redskins in '86? Do you remember a game? I think it was on a Monday night again. A big cheer went up during the game, and I heard from Sean, a couple guys. Nobody knew what was happening. That was the day that we beat the Red Sox in game, won the championship that day. Do you remember that day at all?
I remember it. Everybody was happy. I mean, you know, we had a game going on with the Redskins, but when it came over the loudspeaker, and I don't know if it was, somebody was listening to a transistor radio or whatever. When that roar took place, I mean, it just gave us kind of an incentive to, because we're feeling good knowing that a New York team was, showing their stuff in the playoffs. So, um, you know, I, as just like any other player, you can't really get too distracted because you're playing a game. If you get distracted and somebody runs a kickoff back or whatever, then Parcells is going to have your ass. So, it was always about, staying focused. Don't get too deeply involved in what else is going on outside of what you're doing on the football field. But we were very much aware of what was
Sorry,
happening.
not to keep you. You and Jim Burt started the Gatorade on the coaches. Do you remember your first Gatorade bath?
Well, I've always tried to be open and honest about this. It was Jim Burt who, it was his idea because um, we had Bill Parcells had his way of motivating certain players, and he was all up on um, Jim Burt, and we were going to be playing the Washington Redskins, and he was talking about the center for the Redskins, and he said, he's going to have your ass if you're not ready, blah blah blah. And he just rode Burt all week long, and we got into the game, And as we were playing, Bill would look back at me and say, "Is everything all right? Am I keeping are you clean? Am I keeping the center or guards off of you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Jim. Everything is good. Keep playing the way you're playing." So he came up to me toward the end of the game. That Parcels is such a prick. We should get him with something. And I said, "What do you mean we should get him with something?" He said, "You're his guy. You're his guy. And if you do something to him, he's not going to get you. But if I do something to him, he's going to have my ass again." And I said, "Okay, Jim, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?" He said, "Let's get him with the Gatorade." And I said,
How's
"Okay."
the tradition?
When wait until he takes his headphones off, because I didn't want to throw any Gatorade on him, get him wet, and him being electrocuted or anything like
That
that.
would have been a good look.
Yeah, I know. I know. But when it happened, we got him together, and it became really a staple of the '86 season. And if you know
Yeah,
Bill Parcells, he's very superstitious. You do something one week, and if it works, you have to keep doing it.
100 years of Giants football. Arguably, you are top two, three, four, five best players in history. Only the Bears, Cardinals, and Packers have 100 years history. How does it feel, your legacy being such a big part of an organization like the Giants?
I have to say I'm really honored, Jay, because um, I never really looked at myself as, you know, trying to be a football player. It was something that I kind of fell into. I'd never played the position of linebacker until I got to the Giants, and Marty Schottenheimer drafted me and taught me how to play middle linebacker. And you know, I'm honored to have had really, really, really good coaches. First with Marty Schottenheimer, then Bill Parcells, then Bill Belichick. You know, those guys, they taught me how to play. They made me good, and then they made me even better.
Well, I mean, you're
And
great.
to be able to play for one organization, and for me, it was important that I not go beyond playing with the Giants to some other team. I just wanted to be a Giant, and that was it. And when my career was over, I had opportunities to go to other teams.
I didn't know that.
And I thought to myself, no, I don't want to play anymore. I just want to move on.
I'm
And
glad Eli
so,
Manning did the same thing too. One personal story for me. 76, I went with my late mother to the game against the Eagles. We're winning the game. All of a sudden, Pisarcik hands off to Zaka, fumble. Herm Edwards runs for a touchdown. On that play, I fractured my right wrist, broke my radio, and broke my binoculars. And I cursed out people. My mother, it's the last game my late mother went with me. She said, "I'm not going to be embarrassed by my son. It's crazy what you do at the Giant game." Now, what do you remember about that game, Harry?
yeah, the thing that I remember more so than anything else is we were winning the game. It was
Yeah,
just
17-12.
yeah, I mean, it was as simple as just fall on the ball,
Yeah,
just fall on the ball, and the game's over.
yeah.
But then I'm sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden I see Herman Edwards scoop up the ball, and he's running for a touchdown. I'm like, what the hell?
Huh?
Just like it probably every other fan, they're wondering what is going on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so
Broke my wrist.
when the game was over, I sat on the bench probably 15 or 20 minutes, just trying to process what just happened.
It
And
was,
there
that
were a
was
whole bunch of
crazy.
people who lost their jobs as a result
Yeah,
of that
yeah.
mistake.
Hey, listen, Harry, I really appreciate your time. It's an honor for me as a season ticket holder for 42. Correct. I'm old, 66 years. I got
Wow.
my first. I was at the 58 game against the Colts, going ever since. Yes, and I hope to run into you anytime you want to come out to a game to see the Mets play. Please call me, and I really
Okay.
appreciate your time, and it's an honor to be talking with you.
All right, Jay. You take good care.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you, Harry. Thanks.
All right.